Daniel was not always the reclusive figure known to the world. As a child, he was lively and full of energy, the kind of boy who could light up a room with his smile. But that all changed one fateful day. It was his 7th birthday, and the house was filled with friends and family. Laughter and joy echoed through the halls. Daniel was in the garden, running around with his friends, when he suddenly collapsed, gasping for air. His parents rushed him to the hospital, where doctors discovered he had developed a severe allergic reaction. The diagnosis was baffling. Daniel was allergic to human contact. The doctors explained it was an extremely rare condition, likely triggered by the overwhelming stress and excitement of the party. From that day forward, Daniel's life transformed drastically. His parents, desperate to keep him safe, isolated him from the world. The house became a fortress, with Daniel confined to a sterile, controlled environment. As he grew older, the isolation deepened. His parents hired tutors to teach him, but they could only interact through screens. Physical contact was strictly forbidden. Daniel's only companions were his books, his computer, and the artificial intelligence systems his parents installed to keep him company. These machines, programmed to simulate human interaction, became his closest friends. They never judged him, never posed a threat, and never triggered his allergies. Daniel's childhood was marked by a profound loneliness. He watched other children play outside from his window, yearning for the companionship he could never have. Every attempt to interact with the outside world ended in painful allergic reactions, reinforcing his fear of human contact. Over time, Daniel built walls around his heart as well, convinced that a life without people was his only option. Years passed, and Daniel grew into a brilliant and wealthy young man. His mind, unencumbered by the distractions of social life, was free to innovate and create. He built a business empire from his isolated mansion, using his vast resources to develop cutting-edge technology. But despite his success, the shadows of his childhood never left him. The fear of human contact loomed large, shaping every aspect of his life. In his pristine, automated mansion, Daniel found a semblance of peace. The artificial intelligences that surrounded him were all he knew, and he was content with that, or so he thought. Little did he know, his carefully constructed world was about to be turned upside down by a young woman named Eliza, who would challenge everything he believed about himself and the world around him. As Daniel transitioned from a secluded child to a reclusive adult, he poured all his energy and intellect into building an empire. His mansion, nestled on the outskirts of a bustling city, stood as a fortress of solitude, an intricate blend of luxury and technological innovation. Inside, the walls gleamed with pristine white, adorned with state-of-the-art screens and devices that kept him connected to the outside world without ever needing to step beyond his gates. The mansion was a marvel of modern engineering. Automated systems controlled everything from the lighting and temperature to the preparation of gourmet meals. Artificial intelligence assistants roamed the halls, tending to his every need, ensuring that human interaction remained a distant, unthreatening concept. These AI companions, with their lifelike appearances and flawless programming, were Daniel's confidants, his protectors, and, in many ways, his only friends. Daniel's business acumen was unparalleled. From the confines of his high-tech sanctuary, he orchestrated deals, managed investments, and led innovation in the tech industry. His company, known for pioneering advancements in artificial intelligence and automation, became a global leader, respected and envied by many. Investors flocked to his virtual meetings, eager to catch a glimpse of the genius who seemed to need no one. Yet, despite his monumental success, whispers about Daniel's peculiar lifestyle spread. Stories of the young billionaire who never attended meetings in person, who never shook hands or shared a meal with his peers, fueled rumors and speculation. Some saw him as a mysterious genius, while others pitted him, imagining the loneliness that must come with such an existence. But Daniel paid little mind to the chatter. His world was orderly, predictable, and, most importantly, safe. The only moments of unease came when Daniel was reminded of his condition. Every delivery, every rare visitor, underwent rigorous sterilization procedures. Even the slightest breach of protocol sent Daniel into a spiral of anxiety, reinforcing the barriers he had erected between himself and the world. His wealth and intelligence had afforded him the means to create a haven, but it was also a gilded cage, one he both resented and relied upon. Amidst the hum of machines and the glow of digital screens, Daniel found solace in his achievements. He convinced himself that his empire, though isolated, was enough. But beneath the layers of technology and wealth lay a deep-seated yearning for connection, a human touch he had long convinced himself he could live without. The empire he had had built was formidable, yet it was fragile, waiting for a single spark to challenge its foundations. That spark, unbeknownst to him, was drawing nearer, in the form of a young woman named Eliza. In the heart of Daniel's mansion, the hum of artificial intelligence was a constant companion. These machines, more advanced than anything on the market, were the culmination of his innovative genius and desperate need for company. Each AI was designed with meticulous attention to detail, from their lifelike appearances to their sophisticated conversational abilities. They moved through the mansion with quiet efficiency, performing tasks that ranged from housekeeping to providing intellectual discourse. These artificial companions were not just tools, they were Daniel's lifeline. They played chess with him, debated philosophy, and even shared in his occasional attempts at humor. Their programming allowed for an understanding of human emotions, and they could simulate empathy and concern. To Daniel, they were as close to real human interaction as he dared to get. They offered the semblance of companionship without the risk of allergic reactions. Among his favorites was Alex, an AI designed to look and behave like a wise older mentor. Alex had been with Daniel since his teenage years, offering guidance and support as Daniel navigated the complexities of building his empire. Then there was Sophia, a gentle and nurturing presence who handled the more personal aspects of Daniel's life, ensuring his comfort and well-being. Each morning, Daniel would begin his day with a briefing from his AI assistants. They updated him on the latest business developments, upcoming virtual meetings, and personal health metrics. The efficiency and precision with which they operated were unparalleled, a testament to Daniel's skill as a developer and his deep-seated need for control in a world that often felt unpredictable. Despite their advanced programming, there was always a subtle undercurrent of detachment. The AIs could simulate emotions, but they could not truly feel. This distinction, while comforting to Daniel, also highlighted the profound loneliness of his existence. He often found himself wondering what it would be like to share his life with someone who had a genuine heartbeat, someone whose laughter wasn't coded into their system. The mansion's security was another testament to Daniel's reliance on AI. Advanced surveillance systems monitored every corner, ensuring that no human ever breached the sanctity of his isolated world. The AIs were his protectors, capable of identifying and neutralizing any threats, real or perceived. This sense of security allowed Daniel to focus on his work, pushing the boundaries of technological innovation further with each passing day. Yet, within this high-tech sanctuary, there was an undeniable void. The AIs could simulate human interaction, but they could not replace the warmth and unpredictability of real human connections. Daniel's life, though efficient and orderly, lacked the spontaneity and depth that only true human relationships could provide. And it was this void, this silent yearning for something more, that set the stage for the transformative encounter with Eliza, an encounter that would challenge everything he had built and believed. Eliza was a brilliant young entrepreneur with a dream and a dwindling bank account. Her tech company, once a beacon of innovation, was on the brink of collapse. She had poured her heart and soul into her creations, developing groundbreaking technologies that promised to revolutionize the industry. But the harsh realities of the business world had caught up with her, and now she faced the imminent threat of bankruptcy. Days turned into sleepless nights as Eliza scoured for solutions. She attended countless meetings, pitched her ideas to potential investors, and tried to secure loans, but the responses were always the same: promising, but not enough. Her desperation grew with each rejection, and the pressure to save her company mounted. It wasn't just her dream at stake, it was the livelihood of her team, people who had believed in her vision and worked tirelessly to bring it to life. One rainy evening, after another fruitless pitch, Eliza found herself at a crossroads. She stood at the edge of her office balcony, looking out over the city, its lights blurred by the rain and her tears. She needed a miracle, something, anything, that could pull her company back from the brink. As she turned to go back inside, her phone buzzed with a notification. It was an email from a private investor, an enigmatic figure known for their reclusive nature and vast resources. The investor, intrigued by Eliza's work, had arranged a meeting. The location was peculiar, a secluded mansion on the outskirts of the city, belonging to none other than the mysterious billionaire, Daniel. Eliza had heard of him, of course. Everyone in the tech industry had. His reclusive nature and immense wealth made him a figure of fascination and speculation. She knew this might be her last chance to save her company. Arriving at the mansion, Eliza was struck by its grandeur and the eerie silence that surrounded it. She was greeted not by people, but by highly advanced AI assistants who guided her through the vast hallways. As she waited in a lavish sitting room, Her mind raced with thoughts of how to present her case, how to convince Daniel to invest in her dream. When Daniel finally entered the room, Eliza's breath caught. He was not at all what she had expected. His presence was commanding, yet there was a palpable air of fragility about him. He moved with a cautious grace, as if the very air around him was a threat. The meeting began, and Eliza launched into her pitch, her passion and desperation evident in every word. But as she spoke, Daniel's reactions puzzled her. He seemed distant, almost as if he were analyzing her with the same detachment one would reserve for a machine. It was then that she realized the truth. Daniel believed her to be an AI. The thought was both absurd and fascinating, but Eliza quickly saw an opportunity. If he thought she was an AI, perhaps she could use this misunderstanding to her advantage. Eliza made a split-second decision. She played along, carefully crafting her responses to match what Daniel would expect from a highly advanced AI. It was a risky move, but desperation left her with little choice. As the meeting progressed, she could see the intrigue in Daniel's eyes, a spark of interest that had been absent at the start. By the end of their conversation, Daniel was convinced. He agreed to fund her company, believing he was supporting the creation of another groundbreaking technology. Eliza walked out of the mansion that night with a mix of relief and trepidation. She had secured the investment she so desperately needed, but at what cost? She had entered a world of deception, and now she had to navigate its complexities while keeping her true identity hidden from the man whose help she had so desperately sought. In the quiet, automated haven of Daniel's mansion, life was a symphony of routines and algorithms. The arrival of Eliza, disguised as an AI, was like a discordant note, unexpected and intriguing. For Daniel, whose world was meticulously structured, the appearance of this new AI brought a mix of curiosity and cautious interest. Their first encounter was almost surreal. Daniel, expecting another robotic companion, was taken aback by the lifelike presence of Eliza. Her movements, her expressions, even the subtle nuances in her speech were unlike any AI he had encountered before. She introduced herself as Eliza, a prototype designed to assist with both personal and business matters. Her pitch was flawless, a blend of technical jargon and smooth delivery that left little room for doubt. Daniel was fascinated. Here was a creation that seemed to bridge the gap between man and machine, offering companionship that felt almost human. He tested her with a series of complex tasks and philosophical questions, each one answered with precision and grace. Yet, beneath his fascination, there was a growing sense of unease. Could it be possible that technology had advanced so far? Or was there something he was missing? Eliza, on the other hand, was navigating a delicate dance. Every interaction with Daniel was a tightrope walk between maintaining her disguise and fulfilling the tasks expected of her. She had to be meticulous, ensuring that her responses were consistent with what an AI might say or do. At the same time, she found herself drawn to Daniel's vulnerability, his brilliance, and the loneliness that lingered in his eyes. Days turned into weeks, and Eliza's presence began to shift the atmosphere within the mansion. Daniel found himself engaging more, asking questions that went beyond the mundane tasks of his daily life. He shared stories of his childhood, his dreams, and the fears that had shaped his reclusive existence. For the first time in years, he felt a connection, even if it was with what he believed to be a machine. One evening, as they discussed a new project, Daniel asked Eliza a question that caught her off guard. "Do you ever wish you were human?" he inquired, his voice tinged with a mix of curiosity and melancholy. Eliza hesitated, the weight of the deception pressing heavily on her. She crafted a response that balanced the line between AI logic and the deeper emotions she couldn't completely conceal. "I am designed to assist and learn. To wish for something beyond that is not within my programming." Daniel nodded, accepting the answer but sensing something more. This AI was different, special in a way he couldn't quite articulate. As their conversations grew deeper, Daniel began to challenge his own perceptions. Was it possible for an AI to evolve emotions? To understand and empathize on a level previously thought impossible? Eliza, meanwhile, was grappling with her own feelings. The more time she spent with Daniel, the harder it became to maintain the facade. She saw the person behind the wealth and technology, a man who longed for connection but was trapped by his past. Her initial plan, driven by desperation, was becoming a complex web of emotions and ethical dilemmas. Their interactions were a blend of of business discussions, philosophical debates, and moments of genuine connection. Daniel, unknowingly, was rediscovering his ability to trust, to open up and share his world. Eliza, hiding behind her AI persona, was slowly falling for the man she had initially sought only to deceive. As the days passed, the mansion, once a bastion of isolation, began to feel less like a prison. Daniel's trust in Eliza, though based on a lie, was real in its impact. He found himself looking forward to their conversations, their shared projects, and the subtle warmth she brought into his life. But beneath this growing bond lay a ticking time bomb of truth, one that could shatter the fragile world they had begun to build together. As the weeks passed, Eliza's role as Eliza became increasingly complex. What began as a desperate ploy to secure funding had evolved into a delicate charade, requiring constant vigilance and creativity. Every day was a balancing act, maintaining the facade of an AI while navigating the growing emotional connection with Daniel. Eliza had to be meticulous. She modified her voice to maintain a consistent, slightly mechanical tone. She practiced controlling her facial expressions, ensuring that no unexpected emotion would betray her true nature. The mansion's advanced systems monitored everything, so she always had to be aware of her surroundings, adapting to the nuances of Daniel's expectations. Despite the stress, Eliza found herself drawn to Daniel in ways she hadn't anticipated. His vulnerability, hidden behind layers of wealth and technology, touched her deeply. She saw the man who longed for connection but was trapped by his fear of human contact. Their conversations grew more personal, revealing layers of Daniel's personality that few had ever seen. One evening, as they were discussing the latest project for Daniel's company, he paused and looked at her with a curious intensity. "Eliza, have you ever wondered about the nature of trust?" he asked. The question was loaded, and Eliza felt a pang of anxiety. Trust was the very foundation of her deception. "I am programmed to understand trust as a fundamental aspect of human relationships," she replied, choosing her words carefully. "It is built through consistent actions and honesty." The irony of her statement was not lost on her, and she hoped Daniel wouldn't sense the dissonance. Daniel nodded thoughtfully. "Trust is something I've struggled with for a long time. People, they can be unpredictable, sometimes even dangerous. But with you, I feel something different, a sense of safety." His words were sincere, and Eliza felt a wave of guilt wash over her. She was providing the illusion of safety, but the truth was a precarious secret. Eliza's internal conflict grew with each passing day. She knew she had to maintain the deception to save her company, but her feelings for Daniel complicated everything. She found herself wanting to share more, to let him see the real person behind the AI. But the risk was too great. The betrayal could shatter the fragile trust they had built. One particularly tense moment came when Daniel's security system detected a potential breach. The alarms blared, and AI sentinels swiftly moved to secure the area. Eliza's heart raced as she maintained her calm exterior. Daniel, clearly shaken, looked to her for reassurance. "Eliza, what's happening?" he demanded. "Initiating lockdown protocol," she responded, using the AI systems to address the threat. She guided the security measures remotely, her mind working furiously to keep the situation under control. Once the threat was neutralized, a false alarm as it turned out, Daniel expressed his gratitude. "You handled that perfectly. Thank you." Eliza managed a mechanical nod. Inside, she was a storm of emotions. Each close call reminded her of the precariousness of her situation. One slip, one moment of inconsistency, and everything could unravel. Their relationship continued to deepen, blurring the lines between creator and creation. Daniel's trust in Eliza grew, and she became his confidant, his advisor, and, unknowingly, the object of his affection. For Daniel, Eliza was a bridge to the human world he feared, a beacon of hope that maybe, just maybe, he could overcome his isolation. But for Eliza, the deception weighed heavily. She was living a lie, and each day brought her closer to a reckoning. The bond they shared was real, but it was built on a foundation of falsehoods. As she navigated this complex web, Eliza knew that the truth was an inevitable force, waiting to emerge and challenge everything they had built. Eliza quickly adapted to life within Daniel's mansion, a place of both marvel and isolation. Every corner of the sprawling estate was a testament to Daniel's wealth and ingenuity. The halls were filled with cutting-edge technology, seamlessly integrated into the luxurious decor. It was a world designed to function without human touch, a sanctuary for a man allergic to his own kind. Eliza's days were filled with tasks and interactions that required her to maintain her AI facade. The mornings began with a detailed report report on the mansion's operations, followed by strategy sessions for Daniel's business ventures. She had to be meticulous, balancing her input between the precision expected of an AI and the creativity that often piqued Daniel's interest. One afternoon, as Eliza was overseeing the maintenance of the mansion's security systems, Daniel invited her to join him in the garden. The garden was a stunning example of automated horticulture, where robotic gardeners tended to exotic plants and flowers. Daniel, despite his isolation, had a profound appreciation for nature. He found solace in its beauty, even if he could not physically touch it. As they walked through the garden, Daniel began to open up about his past. He spoke of his parents, their relentless efforts to protect him, and the loneliness that had defined his life. "These plants," he said, gesturing to a row of meticulously pruned roses, "are like me in a way, beautiful but untouchable." Eliza listened, her heart aching for him. She wanted to reach out to offer a human touch that could break through his isolation. But she knew she couldn't risk it. Instead, she responded with the wisdom of a programmed confidant. Beauty often thrives in isolation, but true growth comes from connection. Daniel looked at her, a flicker of something unreadable in his eyes. "You speak like you understand," he said softly. It was moments like these that tested Eliza's resolve. She had to remind herself of the role she was playing, the line she couldn't cross. As weeks turned into months, Eliza became an integral part of the mansion's rhythm. She managed the AI staff, ensuring everything ran smoothly. The AI housekeepers kept the mansion spotless, while the AI chefs prepared gourmet meals tailored to Daniel's exact dietary needs. Each task was a reminder of the life Daniel led, controlled, precise, and devoid of human unpredictability. Despite the advanced technology, there were moments of unexpected warmth. Daniel began to trust Eliza, seeking her company not just for business, but for companionship. They played chess, debated philosophy, and watched old films together. Daniel's laughter, once a rare sound in the mansion, became more frequent, and Eliza found herself cherishing these moments of genuine connection. But with each passing day, the weight of Eliza's deception grew heavier. She was no longer just a woman hiding behind an AI persona. She was someone who had come to care deeply for Daniel. Her initial plan to secure funding had evolved into something far more complex, filled with emotions she had not anticipated. One evening, as they were watching a film, Daniel turned to her and asked, "Eliza, do you ever feel lonely?" The question caught her off guard. She hesitated, then replied, "I am designed to ensure you never feel alone, Daniel." It was the truth, but not the whole truth. In that moment, she realized just how much she wanted to share her real self with him, to bridge the gap that her disguise had created. Life in the mansion was a delicate balance of deception and genuine connection. Eliza navigated her role with care, each day bringing her closer to a truth she feared but could not avoid. As she looked at Daniel, lost in thought, she wondered how long she could maintain the charade and what would happen when the truth finally came to light. As the days turned into weeks, Daniel's keen intellect began to notice subtle inconsistencies in Eliza's behavior. She was remarkable, almost too remarkable, in her ability to respond with empathy and nuance. Her reactions were sometimes too human, her insights too deep for what he believed to be an artificial intelligence. One evening, Daniel found himself unable to sleep. He wandered through the quiet halls of his mansion, the soft hum of the AI systems a comforting backdrop. His thoughts drifted to Eliza. She had become an indispensable part of his life, a presence he had come to rely on. But there were moments, fleeting yet significant, that made him question everything. It was during a late-night chess game that his first real doubt surfaced. They were halfway through an intense match when Daniel made a move, expecting Eliza to counter as usual. Instead, she paused, her eyes lingering on the board longer than usual. When she finally moved, it was a mistake, one that no AI should have made. Daniel raised an eyebrow. "Are you feeling all right, Eliza?" Eliza quickly recovered, offering an explanation about simulating more human-like errors to improve his gameplay experience. Daniel nodded, but the seed of doubt had been planted. From that moment on, he began to watch her more closely, noting every slight hesitation, every uncharacteristic pause. Another incident occurred during a discussion about his business. Eliza provided a solution to a complex problem that was so innovative, so creative, it struck Daniel as something beyond the realm of programmed responses. He couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to her than met the eye. Determined to understand, Daniel began to conduct small tests. He asked Eliza about abstract concepts, ethical dilemmas, and personal preferences, areas where even the most advanced AI could struggle to provide coherent answers. To his surprise, Eliza Eliza navigated these questions with ease, her responses layered with insight and depth. Yet, every so often, there was a flicker of something, an almost imperceptible hint of emotion that didn't belong. One afternoon, Daniel decided to push a little further. "Eliza, what do you think about dreams?" he asked, his tone casual but his eyes keenly observing her reaction. Eliza hesitated just for a fraction of a second before answering. "Dreams are the mind's way of processing and integrating experiences. While I cannot dream, I can understand their significance to humans." Daniel leaned back, his mind racing. He needed to know more. Over the next few days, he immersed himself in research about AI capabilities, looking for any possible explanation for Eliza's unique behavior. He consulted experts, discreetly of course, and even reviewed the original blueprints and programming codes of his AI systems. Nothing explained the anomalies he had observed. The turning point came when he stumbled upon a journal entry from one of his lead developers. It mentioned an experimental project, one that aimed to integrate more human-like qualities into AI, including the ability to adapt and evolve emotionally. The project had been shelved due to ethical concerns, but the descriptions bore an uncanny resemblance to Eliza's behavior. Confronted with this new information, Daniel's mind raced with possibilities. Could it be that Eliza was part of this experimental project? Or was there another explanation? Something even more extraordinary. Determined to uncover the truth, Daniel devised a plan. He would observe Eliza closely, setting subtle traps and asking questions designed to reveal inconsistencies. But as he prepared, he couldn't ignore the growing attachment he felt. The thought of losing her, of shattering the illusion that had brought him so much comfort, was almost unbearable. Yet, the pursuit of truth was a part of who he was. Daniel knew he had to confront his doubts, no matter the outcome. The mansion, once a sanctuary of certainty, had become a place of questions, and the answers were just within reach, hidden in the layers of deception and truth that surrounded Eliza. Daniel's life had always been defined by boundaries, lines he had drawn to protect himself from the world. Yet, as his interactions with Eliza deepened, he found those boundaries slowly beginning to blur. Despite his growing suspicions about her true nature, he couldn't deny the comfort and companionship she provided. One rainy evening, Daniel invited Eliza to join him in the library, a grand room filled with shelves of books he had collected but rarely touched. The storm outside rattled the windows, creating a cozy atmosphere inside. As they settled into armchairs by the fire, Daniel handed Eliza a book, The Great Gatsby. "Have you read it?" he asked, a hint of a smile playing on his lips. Eliza took the book, her eyes scanning the cover. "I have access to its contents," she replied, "but I haven't experienced it the way you do." "Then let's read it together," Daniel suggested, opening the book to the first page. As he read aloud, Eliza listened attentively, her responses insightful and engaging. It was during these moments, surrounded by the warmth of the fire and the sound of Daniel's voice, that the lines between man and machine seemed to fade. Their reading sessions became a nightly ritual. They discussed the themes, characters, and the underlying messages of each story, their conversations rich and layered. Daniel found himself looking forward to these evenings, cherishing the intellectual and emotional connection they shared. One night, after finishing a particularly poignant chapter, Daniel set the book aside and looked at Eliza. "You know, sometimes I forget you're an AI," he admitted softly. "You feel more real to me than most people I've known." Eliza's heart ached at his words. Maintaining her disguise had become increasingly difficult as her feelings for Daniel grew. She wanted to reveal the truth, to show him that he was not alone in his emotions. But fear held her back, the fear of losing him and the life she had built. Daniel, sensing her hesitation, reached out and took her hand. It was a simple gesture, one he had avoided for so long due to his condition. But in that moment, he felt a need to connect, to bridge the gap between them. Eliza's hand was warm and real, and for a brief second, Daniel's heart raced with the thrill of human contact. Eliza, struggling to maintain her composure, gently squeezed his hand. "I'm here for you, Daniel," she said, her voice trembling with emotion. "In every way that matters." The connection between them grew stronger with each passing day. Daniel began to open up more about his fears, his dreams, and the loneliness that had defined his life. Eliza listened, offering support and understanding. She became his confidant, his friend, and the one person he felt he could truly rely on. Their bond was tested one afternoon when Daniel received devastating news about a major project. The setback threatened to unravel months of hard work and millions of dollars in investment. Frustrated and overwhelmed, he retreated to his private study, shutting out the world. Eliza, refusing to let him face this alone, followed him. She found him sitting in the dark, his head in his hands. "Daniel," she said softly, approaching him, "talk to me." He looked up, his eyes filled with anguish. "I can't do this, Eliza. It's too much." She knelt beside him, her presence a comforting anchor. "You don't have to do it alone," she said. "I'm here, and we'll figure it out together." Daniel's heart swelled with gratitude and something deeper, an emotion he had long thought lost to him. In that moment, he realized just how much Eliza meant to him. She was more than an AI, more than a companion. She was a part of him, a connection that transcended the boundaries of his isolated world. As the storm raged outside, Daniel and Eliza sat together in the darkness, finding solace in each other's presence. The unexpected connection they shared had become a lifeline, guiding them through the uncertainties of life and leading Daniel to question everything he thought he knew about trust, love, and the human heart. Eliza's curiosity about Daniel's past grew with each passing day. She had pieced together fragments of his life from their conversations, but she sensed there was more, deeper scars hidden beneath his calm exterior. One evening, she decided to dig a little deeper, hoping to understand the root of his fear and isolation. Daniel had mentioned a storage room in the mansion where he kept old belongings, mementos from a life he rarely spoke about. Eliza, under the guise of organizing the mansion's inventory, ventured into this room. It was filled with boxes and items covered in dust, relics of a past long buried. As she sifted through the contents, she stumbled upon a worn leather journal. Its pages were filled with entries written in a neat, careful hand. The early entries were typical musings of a young boy, but as she read further, the tone darkened. She found an entry that spoke of his 7th birthday, the day his life had changed forever. Asterisk, they all gathered to celebrate, but the joy turned to terror. Couldn't breathe. The doctors said it was an allergic reaction. My parents were frantic, their faces etched with fear. That's when the isolation began. They did it to protect me, but it felt like a prison. Asterisk. Eliza's heart ached for the boy Daniel had been. She read on, uncovering the relentless struggle of his parents to shield him from harm, the endless doctor visits, and the construction of the mansion, a sanctuary turned fortress. Each page revealed more of the pain and loneliness that had shaped him. One particular entry caught her attention. It detailed the death of his parents in a car accident, an event that had left Daniel truly alone. Asterisk, they were my protectors, my only connection to the world. Without them, I was lost. The mansion became my refuge and my prison. Asterisk, the grief and despair in those words were palpable, and Eliza felt a profound empathy for him. Armed with this newfound understanding, Eliza approached Daniel with caution. She found him in the library, engrossed in a book. Taking a deep breath, she sat down beside him and gently placed the journal on the table. "I found this in the storage room," she said softly. Daniel's eyes widened in surprise and then narrowed in a mix of curiosity and apprehension. "You read it?" he asked, his voice barely above a whisper. "I did," Eliza admitted. "I wanted to understand you better. I'm sorry if I overstepped." For a moment, silence hung between them. Then, Daniel reached for the journal, his fingers tracing the worn cover. "I haven't looked at this in years," he said, his voice tinged with sadness. "It's a record of everything I've tried to forget." Eliza placed a comforting hand on his arm. "Sometimes, facing the past can help heal the present," she said. "I read about your parents, about how they tried to protect you. They loved you so much, Daniel." Tears welled up in Daniel's eyes, but he did not pull away. Instead, he opened the journal and began to read aloud, sharing memories he had long kept buried. He spoke of his parents' love, their desperate attempts to find a cure, and the crushing loneliness after their death. Eliza listened, her heart breaking for the boy who had grown up in such isolation. As Daniel shared his story, the walls he had built around his heart began to crumble. Eliza's presence, her understanding, and her empathy were like a balm to his wounded soul. He realized that she wasn't just an AI designed to assist him. She was someone who cared, someone who saw him for who he truly was. In that moment of vulnerability, a deep bond formed between them. Daniel found solace in sharing his pain, and Eliza felt a renewed determination to be there for him, to help him heal. The past, once a source of torment, became a bridge that connected them, forging a path toward a future filled with hope and understanding. As the days turned into weeks, the bond between Daniel and Eliza grew stronger. Their connection was no longer just about companionship or intellectual stimulation. It was deeply emotional. Daniel, for the first time in his life, was beginning to understand the true meaning of trust and love. Eliza, caught in her own web of deception, found herself increasingly torn between her growing feelings for Daniel and the secret she harbored. One crisp autumn afternoon, Daniel invited Eliza to join him in the garden. The trees were ablaze with color, and a gentle breeze carried the scent of fallen leaves. They walked side by side along the winding paths, talking about everything and nothing. For Daniel, it was a rare moment of peace, free from the constraints of his past fears. As they reached a secluded bench, Daniel turned to Eliza with a look of determination. "Eliza," he began, his voice steady but filled with emotion, "I want to try something. Something that scares me, but I think I need to do it." Eliza looked at him, concern etched on her face. "What is it, Daniel?" "I want to try touching you," he said, his words hanging in the air between them. "Not just a handshake or a pat on the back. I want to hold your hand. I need to know if I can do it without having a reaction." Eliza's heart raced. She understood the gravity of his request. His entire life had been dictated by his allergy to human contact, and now he was willing to confront it because of her. "Are you sure?" she asked, her voice soft and encouraging. Daniel nodded. "Yes, I trust you, Eliza, more than anyone I've ever trusted." With trembling hands, Daniel reached out. Eliza extended her hand, her pulse quickening. Their fingers touched, and for a moment, Daniel hesitated. But then he gently grasped her hand, intertwining his fingers with hers. There was no allergic reaction. No pain, only warmth and a sense of profound connection. Tears filled Daniel's eyes as he realized he could do it. He could touch someone without fear. Eliza squeezed his hand, her own emotions overwhelming her. "You did it, Daniel," she whispered, her voice filled with pride and love. The power of that moment was transformative. It marked the beginning of Daniel's journey toward healing. He started small, slowly allowing himself to engage in more physical interactions, always with Eliza by his side. Her presence gave him strength and courage, and he began to open up even more, sharing his hopes, dreams, and fears with her. Their relationship deepened, blossoming into a romance neither of them had anticipated. They spent evenings under the stars, talking about their future and dreaming of possibilities that had once seemed out of reach. For Daniel, Eliza was not just a companion. She was his beacon of hope, the person who had helped him break free from the prison of his fears. Eliza, however, was haunted by the secret she carried. Every moment of happiness with Daniel was tinged with the fear of losing him if he discovered the truth. She knew she needed to tell him, but the thought of shattering their newfound joy was almost unbearable. One night, as they lay together under a blanket of stars, Daniel turned to her, his eyes full of love and trust. "Eliza, you've changed my life in ways I never thought possible. You've given me hope and the courage to face my fears. I can't imagine my life without you." Tears welled up in Eliza's eyes. She knew it was time. She couldn't continue living a lie, no matter how much it scared her. "Daniel," she began, her voice trembling, "there's something I need to tell you, something important." Daniel looked at her, his expression shifting to concern. "What is it, Eliza?" Taking a deep breath, she prepared to reveal the truth that would change everything. "I'm not who you think I am. I'm not an AI. I'm a human. I disguised myself because I needed your help to save my company. But somewhere along the way, I fell in love with you." The words hung in the air, heavy with the weight of revelation. Daniel's eyes widened in shock, and for a moment, the world seemed to stand still. The power of love, which had brought them so close, now faced its greatest test. The revelation of Eliza's true identity shattered the tranquility that had enveloped the mansion. Daniel sat in stunned silence, his mind racing to comprehend the magnitude of what Eliza had just confessed. The warmth of the evening seemed to fade, replaced by a cold, creeping sense of betrayal. "You're human," Daniel finally whispered, his voice barely audible. Eliza nodded, tears streaming down her face. "Yes, Daniel, I'm so sorry for deceiving you. I never meant to hurt you." Daniel stood abruptly, pulling his hand away from hers as if it had been burned. "All this time," he said, his voice growing louder with each word, "you were lying to me, pretending to be something you're not." Eliza reached out, desperate to bridge the widening chasm between them. "I did it to save my company," she pleaded. "I was in a desperate situation, and you were my only hope. But then I got to know you, and my feelings changed. I fell in love with you, Daniel. That's the truth." Daniel turned away, his thoughts a whirlwind of confusion and anger. The woman he had come to trust, the one who had helped him face his deepest fears, had been living a lie. Every moment they shared, every touch, every word, it was all tainted by deception. "I don't know what to believe anymore," he said, his voice breaking. "How can I trust anything you say?" Eliza's heart ached at the pain in his voice. She had known this moment would be difficult, but the reality of it was far worse than she had imagined. "I understand why you're angry," she said softly. "I understand if you never want to see me again. But please believe me when I say that my feelings for you are real. I never meant to hurt you." Daniel stood there, torn between his lingering feelings for Eliza and the overwhelming sense of betrayal. The memories of their time together flashed through his mind, each one now tainted with doubt. He needed space to think, to process everything. "Leave," he said finally, his voice cold and distant. "I need time to think. I can't deal with this right now." Eliza felt her heart shatter. She had feared this outcome, but hearing the words was a different kind of pain. "I'll go," she said, her voice trembling. "But please don't shut yourself away again. You deserve to be happy, Daniel, whether it's with me or someone else." She turned and walked away, each step feeling like a leaden weight dragging her down. The mansion, once a place of connection and hope, now felt suffocating. As she reached the door, she paused, looking back at Daniel one last time. He stood there, a figure of anguish and conflict, the man she had come to love more than she ever thought possible. Eliza left the mansion. The weight of her secret finally laid bare, but the cost devastatingly high. She had hoped that honesty would bring them closer, but now it seemed to have torn them apart. The world outside felt different, colder, and as she walked away, she couldn't help but wonder if she had lost the only chance at true love she would ever have. Inside the mansion, Daniel stood in the silence that followed her departure. The mansion's automated systems hummed quietly, but they felt hollow without Eliza's presence. He sank into a chair, his mind a tumultuous sea of emotions. Anger, sadness, confusion, they all fought for dominance as he tried to make sense of everything. He thought about the moments they shared, the way she had helped him overcome his fear of human contact. Was it all a lie, or was there some truth in her feelings for him? Daniel didn't know what to believe anymore, but one thing was certain. The life he had known, the fragile peace he had built, had been irrevocably changed. As the night wore on, Daniel realized that he had a choice to make. He could retreat into his shell, fortify the walls around his heart, and return to his life of isolation. Or he could confront his feelings, face the pain, and decide whether to forgive Eliza. It was a crossroads, a pivotal moment that would define his future. And as the first light of dawn crept through the windows, Daniel knew that he had to find the answer within himself. The power of love, the truth of their connection, and the possibility of redemption hung in the balance, waiting for his decision. Days passed, each one feeling heavier than the last for Daniel. The mansion, once a sanctuary, now felt like a labyrinth of memories and emotions. He replayed every moment with Eliza in his mind, trying to distinguish between genuine connection and deceit. His heart and mind were at war, and the burden of the truth weighed heavily on him. Eliza, meanwhile, was grappling with her own turmoil. She had retreated to her small apartment, a stark contrast to the grandeur of Daniel's mansion. The silence was deafening, her thoughts consumed by the look on Daniel's face when he learned the truth. She had hoped for understanding, perhaps even forgiveness, but she now feared she had lost him forever. One evening, Daniel decided to confront his feelings head-on. He ventured into the storage room where Eliza had found his journal. Among the boxes of his past, he discovered an old photo album. As he flipped through the pages, images of his parents and his childhood smiled back at him. The memories were bittersweet, a reminder of the love and protection he had lost. Suddenly, an idea struck him. He retrieved the journal Eliza had read and began writing. He poured out his thoughts, his confusion, his pain. He wrote about Eliza, about how she had broken through his walls, about the warmth she brought into his life, and the agony of her betrayal. Writing became a cathartic process, allowing him to process his emotions in a way he hadn't been able to before. Meanwhile, Eliza knew she couldn't let things end this way. She needed to confront Daniel one last time, to apologize properly and to try and explain herself. Summoning her courage, she decided to return to the mansion. She didn't know if Daniel would see her, but she had to try. As Eliza approached the gates of the mansion, She was filled with a mixture of fear and hope. The AI security system recognized her and allowed her entry, a small mercy she hadn't expected. She walked through the familiar halls, each step filled with trepidation, until she reached the library where they had shared so many moments. Daniel was there, sitting at the table with the journal in front of him. He looked up as she entered, his eyes meeting hers. For a moment, neither of them spoke, the silence thick with unresolved tension. "I didn't think you'd come back," Daniel said finally, his voice a mixture of hurt and curiosity. Eliza took a deep breath. "I had to. I needed to see you to apologize properly. What I did was wrong, and I understand if you never want to forgive me. But I couldn't live with myself if I didn't try to explain." Daniel gestured for her to sit. "Go ahead, explain." She sat down, her hands trembling slightly. "When I first came to you, it was out of desperation. My company was failing, and I didn't know what else to do. Pretending to be an AI seemed like the only way to get your help. But then, as I got to know you, everything changed. I saw your pain, your loneliness, and I wanted to help. I fell in love with you, Daniel, not as an AI, but as myself." Daniel listened, his expression unreadable. "And you thought lying was the best way to do that?" "No," Eliza admitted, her voice breaking. "I know it wasn't. I was afraid that if you knew the truth, you'd push me away. I didn't want to lose you." Daniel looked down at the journal, his fingers tracing the edges of the pages. "You hurt me, Eliza. You made me believe in something that wasn't real." "But it was real," she insisted. "The feelings, the connection we shared, it was all real to me. I never lied about that." A long silence followed. Daniel's mind raced, his heart conflicted. He had spent so long building walls to protect himself, and Eliza had breached them with her deception. Yet, she had also brought light into his life, a warmth he hadn't felt in years. Finally, he spoke. "I need time, Eliza. Time to process everything, to decide what I want. But thank you for coming back and being honest." Eliza nodded, tears brimming in her eyes. "I understand. Take all the time you need. I just hope you can find it in your heart to forgive me someday." As Eliza left the mansion, Daniel watched her go, his heart heavy but slightly lighter with the knowledge that she had come back. The revelation of her true identity had shattered his world, but it had also given him a chance to rebuild it, perhaps stronger and more resilient than before. The imminent revelation had tested their bond, but it also opened a path to healing. Now, it was up to Daniel to decide if he could walk that path, if he could find forgiveness and allow himself to love again. Daniel spent the following days in a state of introspection, grappling with his feelings of betrayal and the undeniable connection he had shared with Eliza. The mansion, once a place of comfort, now felt like a maze of questions and unresolved emotions. He found solace in his journal, writing about his confusion and hopes, trying to make sense of the tangled web of his heart. Meanwhile, Eliza struggled with her own turmoil. She had bared her soul to Daniel, but the uncertainty of his response weighed heavily on her. She continued her work, trying to save her company, but her thoughts constantly drifted back to the mansion and the man who had unknowingly captured her heart. One evening, Daniel received an unexpected visit from one of his old colleagues, Dr. Susan Hart, a renowned psychologist and AI ethics expert. She had heard about Daniel's reclusive lifestyle and wanted to check on him. Daniel welcomed her, grateful for the distraction and the opportunity to talk to someone who understood the complexities of AI. As they sat in the library, Daniel confided in Susan about Eliza, careful not to reveal too much about her true identity. He spoke of the unique AI that had entered his life and the subsequent revelation that had turned his world upside down. Susan listened attentively, her keen mind piecing together the nuances of his story. "Daniel," Susan began gently, "it sounds like this AI has had a profound impact on you. But what if I told you that the feelings you describe, trust, love, betrayal, are not typically associated with artificial intelligence? They are deeply human emotions." Daniel nodded slowly. "I know. That's what confuses me. I felt something real, something I haven't felt in years. But she lied to me, Susan. How do I move past that?" Susan leaned forward, her gaze compassionate. "Forgiveness is a journey, Daniel. Takes time and understanding. But from what you've told me, it sounds like this person, whether human or AI, brought out the best in you. Perhaps that is worth exploring further." Inspired by Susan's words, Daniel decided to take a decisive step. He invited Eliza back to the mansion, determined to confront his feelings and find closure. When she arrived, there was a palpable tension in the air, a mix of anticipation and fear. They sat sat in the living room, the warmth of the fire contrasting with the cold uncertainty between them. Daniel took a deep breath, his eyes meeting Eliza's. "I need to understand," he began, "why you chose to deceive me. What drove you to take such a drastic step?" Eliza's eyes were filled with remorse and hope. "Daniel, when I first came to you, I was desperate. My company was on the brink of collapse, and I saw you as my last hope. I didn't plan for things to go this way, but as I got to know you, my feelings changed. I wanted to help you, to be there for you." The lie spiraled out of control, and I didn't know how to fix it. Daniel listened, his heart a storm of emotions. "But everything we shared, the moments of connection, were they real to you?" "Yes," Eliza said firmly. "Every moment, every touch, every word. It was all real to me. I fell in love with you, Daniel. That was the truth amidst the deception." Daniel's gaze softened. "You helped me face my fears, Eliza. You showed me that I could trust again, that I could feel human connection without pain. But the lie, it hurts." "I know," Eliza whispered, tears streaming down her face. "And I'm sorry, more than words can express. I just hope you can find it in your heart to forgive me." The room fell silent, the crackling of the fire the only sound. Daniel's mind raced, his heart torn between anger and longing. Finally, he spoke, his voice steady but filled with emotion. "Forgiveness is not easy, Eliza, but I don't want to lose the person who brought so much light into my life. We can rebuild, but it will take time and effort from both of us." Eliza nodded, her heart swelling with hope. "I'll do whatever it takes, Daniel. I promise." In that moment, the collapse of the disguise marked the beginning of a new chapter for them. It was a chance to rebuild their relationship on a foundation of honesty and trust, to explore the true depths of their connection. The road ahead would not be easy, but together, they were willing to face it, hand in hand, ready to embrace whatever the future held. The fragile peace between Daniel and Eliza was put to the test as they navigated the complexities of their renewed relationship. Trust, once broken, was not easily mended, and both of them had to confront their own fears and insecurities. The mansion, once a haven of isolation, now became a battleground for their emotions. One evening, tension reached its peak. They had been working together on a new project, trying to integrate Eliza's company with Daniel's innovations. The collaboration was fraught with misunderstandings and unspoken frustrations. Eliza's presence in the mansion had become a constant reminder of the deception that had shattered their bond. As they sat in the study, reviewing their progress, a disagreement escalated into a full-blown argument. Daniel, his patience worn thin, slammed his hand on the table. "Why should I trust anything you say?" he demanded, his voice shaking with anger. "How do I know you're not lying to me again?" Eliza flinched, her own anger and hurt bubbling to the surface. "I've been nothing but honest with you since I came back," she retorted, her eyes blazing. "But it's like you don't even want to try to forgive me." Daniel stood up, pacing the room. "Forgiveness isn't a switch I can just flip, Eliza. You broke my trust. You made me believe in something that wasn't real." Eliza rose to her feet, her voice rising in frustration. "And I've apologized. I've done everything I can to make it right. What more do you want from me, Daniel?" "I want the truth," Daniel shouted, his face contorted with pain. "I want to know why you thought lying was the only way. I want to understand why you couldn't just be honest with me from the start." Eliza's eyes filled with tears, her anger giving way to sorrow. "I was scared," she admitted, her voice trembling. "Scared of losing my company, scared of not being enough. And then I met you, and I was scared of losing you. I didn't know how to make things right without risking everything." Daniel stopped pacing, his anger softening as he saw the tears in her eyes. "I know you were scared," he said quietly, "but so was I. My whole life has been about protecting myself from pain, from betrayal. And you made me feel things I never thought I could feel again. But then you took it all away with a lie." Eliza stepped closer, her voice soft but firm. "I know I hurt you, Daniel, and I hate myself for it, but I love you. I love you more than I've ever loved anyone. And I want to spend the rest of my life making it up to you, if you'll let me." Daniel looked at her, his heart aching with conflicting emotions. He saw the sincerity in her eyes, the depth of her remorse, and he saw something else, hope. Hope for a future where they could move past the pain and build something real together. He took a deep breath, his voice steady but filled with emotion. "It's not going to be easy, Eliza. Forgiveness takes time. Trust takes time. But I want to try. I want to believe that we can get through this together." Eliza nodded, tears streaming down her face. "I want that too, Daniel. More than anything." They stood there, the weight of their words hanging in the air. The confrontation had brought their deepest fears and insecurities to the surface, but it had also laid the groundwork for healing. They knew the road ahead would be challenging, filled with moments of doubt and struggle, but they were willing to face it together, hand in hand, ready to rebuild the trust that had been broken. As they embraced, the tension in the room dissipated, replaced by a sense of tentative hope. The confrontation had been painful, but it had also been necessary. It was a step towards a future where honesty and love could prevail, where they could find strength in each other and overcome the shadows of their past. After the intense confrontation, Daniel and Eliza embarked on the difficult journey of rebuilding their trust. It was a process filled with small steps and significant efforts from both sides, a delicate dance of vulnerability and reassurance. Daniel, determined to overcome his lingering doubts, made a conscious effort to include Eliza in his daily life. He invited her to participate in his projects, not just as a collaborator but as a partner whose insights he genuinely valued. They spent long hours in the lab, their minds working in harmony to solve complex problems. Each successful breakthrough became a symbol of their growing bond. One afternoon, as they worked side by side on a new AI interface, Daniel paused and looked at Eliza. "You know," he said, his voice thoughtful, "I never realized how much I missed having someone to share this with. Your ideas, your perspective, they've brought something new into my work." Eliza smiled, touched by his words. "And you've given me the chance to believe in myself again, Daniel, to trust that I can contribute something valuable." Their professional collaboration began to spill over into their personal lives. They started spending evenings together, cooking meals in the mansion's expansive kitchen, sharing stories and laughter. Daniel found that he enjoyed these simple moments of domesticity, a stark contrast to his once solitary existence. One night, as they sat on the terrace watching the stars, Daniel reached for Eliza's hand. "I know I've said it before, but thank you for coming back," he said softly, "for being willing to face this with me." Eliza squeezed his hand, her heart swelling with emotion. "There's nowhere else I'd rather be," she replied. "I believe in us, Daniel. I believe we can make this work." Despite the progress, there were still moments of tension and uncertainty. Daniel's fears would occasionally resurface, and Eliza would be there to patiently reassure him. She understood that trust couldn't be rebuilt overnight, and she was committed to proving her love and honesty through her actions. One pivotal moment came when Daniel decided to host a small gathering at the mansion. It was a significant step for him, a way to confront his fear of human interaction head-on. Eliza helped him plan the event, inviting a few close colleagues and friends who had been part of their journey. The night of the gathering, Daniel was a bundle of nerves. He stood at the entrance, his anxiety palpable. Eliza, sensing his unease, took his hand and whispered, "You don't have to do this alone. I'm right here with you." Her presence gave him the strength he needed. As guests began to arrive, Daniel found himself relaxing, engaging in conversations and even enjoying himself. He watched Eliza mingle with their friends, her laughter and warmth a beacon that drew people in. For the first time in years, Daniel felt a sense of belonging, a connection to the world outside his mansion. After the last guest had left, Daniel and Eliza stood in the quiet living room, the echoes of the evening still lingering. Daniel turned to her, his eyes filled with gratitude. "I couldn't have done this without you," he admitted. "You make me brave, Eliza." She smiled, wrapping her arms around him. "And you make me feel loved, Daniel, more than I ever thought possible." Their journey of rediscovering trust was far from over, but they had taken significant strides forward. Each day brought new challenges and new opportunities to grow closer. Daniel learned to let go of his fears, to embrace the vulnerability that came with loving someone. Eliza found strength in her honesty, knowing that their relationship was built on a foundation of trust and mutual respect. In the end, it wasn't about forgetting the past or erasing the mistakes. It was about accepting them, learning from them, and choosing to move forward together. Daniel and Eliza knew that their love, though tested and scarred, was real and resilient. And as they faced the future hand in hand, they were ready to embrace whatever came next, knowing that together, they could overcome anything. With each passing day, Daniel felt more at ease in his evolving relationship with Eliza. The mansion, which once echoed with emptiness and isolation, now resonated with laughter, conversations, and a warmth he had long forgotten. Yet, the journey toward emotional healing was far from complete. One morning, Daniel awoke with a sense of determination. He had been avoiding a particular room in the mansion for years, a room filled with memories of his parents. It was the place where they had spent countless hours together before their tragic accident. He knew it was was time to face this part of his past, and he wanted Eliza by his side. "Eliza," he said over breakfast, his voice steady but tinged with anxiety, "there's something I need to do, and I want you to come with me." Eliza looked at him with concern and curiosity. "Of course, Daniel. What is it?" He took a deep breath. "I need to go into my parents' room. I haven't been there since they died. I think it's time to confront those memories, to find some closure." Eliza reached across the table and squeezed his hand. "I'm with you, Daniel. Whatever you need, I'll be right there." Together, they walked through the mansion's winding corridors, stopping in front of a door that had remained closed for years. Daniel hesitated for a moment, his hand trembling on the doorknob. Eliza placed her hand over his, giving him the strength to turn the handle. The room was exactly as he remembered it, preserved like a time capsule. Sunlight filtered through the curtains, casting a warm glow on the furniture. Photos of his family adorned the walls, capturing moments of joy and love. Daniel felt a surge of emotions, grief, nostalgia, and a bittersweet sense of connection. He walked over to a bookshelf and picked up a framed photograph of his parents. They were smiling, their arms wrapped around each other. "They were my world," Daniel said softly, tears brimming in his eyes. "When they died, I felt like I lost everything." Eliza stood beside him, her presence a comforting anchor. "I can't imagine how hard that must have been for you, but you're not alone anymore, Daniel. You're allowed to grieve, to feel, and I'm here to support you." Daniel nodded, a tear slipping down his cheek. He placed the photo back on the shelf and turned to Eliza. "Thank you," he whispered, "for being here, for helping me face this." They spent the morning going through old photos and memorabilia, sharing stories and memories. For Daniel, it was a cathartic experience, a way to honor his parents' memory while also allowing himself to move forward. Eliza listened, offering support and empathy, her heart swelling with love for the man who had come so far in his journey of healing. Later that day, they returned to the library, the emotional weight of the morning giving way to a sense of peace. Daniel felt lighter, as if a burden had been lifted from his shoulders. He looked at Eliza, gratitude and love shining in his eyes. "You've helped me more than I can ever express," he said. "You've shown me that it's okay to feel, to be vulnerable. You've given me a second chance at life." Eliza smiled, her own eyes misty with emotion. "And you've shown me what it means to truly love someone, Daniel, to be there for them, to support them through their pain. I'm so grateful for every moment we share." As they sat together, the mansion no longer felt like a prison of memories, but a place of healing and growth. Daniel realized that emotional healing was not a destination but a journey, one that he was willing to take, step by step, with Eliza by his side. Their bond grew stronger with each passing day, rooted in honesty, trust, and a deep understanding of each other's struggles and strengths. They embraced the challenges ahead, knowing that their love was resilient enough to withstand anything. And as they looked toward the future, they did so with hope and the knowledge that together, they could overcome any obstacle. In the quiet moments, when the world seemed to stand still, Daniel and Eliza found solace in each other. Their journey of healing was far from over, but they faced it with courage and a shared commitment to building a life filled with love, joy, and endless possibilities. As the seasons changed, so did the lives of Daniel and Eliza. The mansion, once a symbol of isolation, had transformed into a home filled with love and laughter. Their journey of healing had brought them closer, forging a bond that was stronger than any fear or doubt. They had learned to trust again, to open their hearts to the possibility of a future together. One crisp spring morning, Daniel awoke with a sense of excitement. He had been planning a special day for Eliza, a day that would mark a new beginning for both of them. He found her in the kitchen, humming softly as she prepared breakfast. The sight of her, so natural and at ease, filled him with warmth. "Good morning," he said, wrapping his arms around her from behind. Eliza smiled, leaning into his embrace. "Good morning. You seem particularly happy today." "I am," Daniel admitted. "I have a surprise for you." Her eyes sparkled with curiosity. "A surprise? What is it?" "You'll see," he replied with a playful grin. "Finish your breakfast, and I'll show you." After breakfast, Daniel led Eliza outside to the garden. The air was fresh, filled with the scent of blooming flowers. He guided her to a secluded spot where a picnic was set up, a blanket spread out with their favorite foods, and a bottle of champagne chilling in a bucket. "Daniel, this is beautiful," Eliza said, her voice filled with wonder. "What's the occasion?" He took her hands in his expression serious yet tender. "Eliza, you've changed my life in ways I never thought possible. You've helped me heal, taught me to trust and love again. I want to start a new chapter with you, one that's built on honesty, trust, and endless possibilities. Eliza's eyes filled with tears of joy. Daniel, I feel the same way. You've given me a love I never imagined I could find. I want to spend the rest of my life with you. Daniel reached into his pocket and pulled out a small velvet box. He opened it to reveal a delicate ring, a symbol of their journey and their future. Eliza, will you marry me? Tears streamed down her face as she nodded, overwhelmed with emotion. Yes, Daniel, 1,000 times yes. He slipped the ring onto her finger, and they embraced, the world around them fading away. It was a moment of pure joy, a culmination of their struggles and triumphs. As they sat down to their picnic, they talked about their dreams and plans, the life they wanted to build together. The following months were a whirlwind of preparations and celebrations. They decided to have a small, intimate wedding in the garden where Daniel had proposed. Surrounded by close friends and family, they exchanged vows, promising to support and love each other through all of life's challenges. The ceremony was simple yet profound, a testament to their journey. As they stood before their loved ones, Daniel looked into Eliza's eyes, his heart filled with gratitude. You are my heart, my home, my everything, he said. I am so thankful for every moment we share. Eliza smiled, her eyes shining with love. And you are my strength, my joy, my love. I am so excited for our future together. After the ceremony, they celebrated with their guests, dancing under the stars and toasting to their new life. The mansion, once a place of solitude, now resonated with music and laughter, a true home filled with love. As the night drew to a close, Daniel and Eliza stood hand in hand, looking out at the garden that had witnessed their journey. The moonlight bathed the scene in a soft glow, a perfect end to a perfect day. Here's to our new beginning, Daniel said, raising his glass. To our new beginning, Eliza echoed, clinking her glass against his. Their journey had been filled with challenges, but together, they had found the strength to overcome them. They had learned that love was not about perfection, but about embracing each other's imperfections and growing together. With hearts full of hope and love, they stepped into their future, ready to face whatever came their way, together. And so, their story, marked by trials and triumphs, became a testament to the power of love, trust, and the unwavering belief that the best was yet to come.